All right. Well, welcome to an unbelievable day in the NFL. Holy cow. What a freaking day. We had news all over the place. Ronnie, were you sitting down when you heard some of the news? We were texting back and forth, but holy
I
crap.
was. This is the day we've been waiting for, though. We knew it was coming. It was just around the corner. Well,
It
we just waited
was.
for the first domino, and down it went, big time.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the first domino, the first one was Aaron Rodgers. So let's talk about him. So he's staying in Green Bay, but the deal that he signed was a massive deal. A 4-year, $200 million deal, 153 guaranteed. Now, there's a couple things that are coming out about this. Aaron Rodgers tweeted shortly after the report was coming out saying he hadn't signed anything. So there isn't a lot of detail on
Yeah.
this, but the first domino fell. He's staying in Green Bay. So how do you feel about that?
It's what we expected. We've been saying for a minute now that he was staying in Green Bay. We felt that was the most possible outcome. My question, I kind of wonder though, with this 53 million guarantee, is that if it's guaranteed, is there a stipulation he has to play out all 4 years or 60%? I mean, 3 years, or could he just play a season, call it quits, and walk away with 153 million after 1 year?
I have no idea. Hey, all you people that are watching this, we would love to interact with you. Make sure you comment. We'd love to interact with your comments. There's a lot of stuff that happened today. We'd love to hear your takes and be able to bring that up on the screen and talk to it. So feel free. We'd love to have the discussion, but I don't know what that would look like. I got to imagine that. So 4 years for a guy that has been saying the last 2 years that he's going to retire seems like a stretch for me. So they have to be at least a couple voidable years in there. So
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
the only thing
he's
that we're really
38,
guaranteed is
so
this year. Yeah,
right.
38 years old.
And I mean, sure, I guess he could play till he's 42, but only one person, to my knowledge, has ever made it to 42 and was good at it. And it feels like to me, when you talking about quarterbacks or any position for that matter, as they age, you can start to kind of see a decline. But oftentimes, what happens with quarterbacks is you don't see that decline; it just happens. Like Peyton Manning went from really great to just, oh my gosh, he's terrible. So when is that going to happen, or
He
is
did
it
win
going
the
to
Super
happen?
Bowl that terrible year. He did
Oh,
win a
yeah.
Super Bowl that terrible year, Ronnie.
Despite him, yes, they did.
Yeah. So he was the first domino to fall, right? So he's
Yeah.
staying in Green Bay. And then the very next thing that we had our eyes on was Davante Adams was tagged. So he was able to get franchise tagged. I don't know how. So the main thing is with this new contract is that it created space for the Green Bay Packers because
Yeah.
he had, they were over the cap big time, by $30 million. So whatever his deal is, it's going to allow them to be able to keep Davante Adams. Now, Davante Adams' price tag is going to be a little bit high, being franchise tag. So he gets paid in the top quartile of wide receiver position, but
Well,
those two are going to be together.
it actually kind of depends on what I'm assuming it's just the franchise tag, which, from my understanding, so there's two different types, right? There's exclusive and the non-exclusive. If it's exclusive, it's an average of the top 5 salaries or 120% of his current salary, whichever is greater. So either way, yeah, he's going to get paid as one of the top receivers, as he should. But there was also another signing earlier today with the Chargers, 3
Mike
years, 60
Williams.
million, so 20 million a year. So I just wonder what is that going to do for potential Adams contract? Because I'll take Devontae over Mike Williams any day.
Oh, for sure. And John has a great question here. This is the same question that I'm wondering. Just curious how the Packers are going to pay Aaron and Adams that money. How are they going to find money for a defense and compete for a title? That's huge. I think it's all going to come down to what the details are in his contract. I'm bringing it up right here to see if there's anything online, because right now they don't have to be under the cap until the new league year hits, which is next week. So right now,
Right.
with everything that's going on and Davante being tagged, the Packers are $45 million, almost $46 million over the cap. So that's my big question is, okay, you keep Aaron Rodgers, great. Devontae Adams staying with you. Well, what has that done for you though? Like at the end of the day, they won one ring in 2010. I know
Right.
that the NFC is kind of clearing out, as far as what's going on, like the landscape, what the NFC looks like. But still, at the end of the day, what in the world, like they're going to be the same or worse. I can't imagine where they're getting better. They're just retaining their players at this point. This isn't a blockbuster go get a guy. This is to keep the guy that you've already had that you've been kind of getting the same results with.
Yeah. Well, I think at the end of the day, the Packers roster as it stands is good enough to go to and win a Super Bowl. They just got to get it done. But I think what's going to happen is a lot of these contracts are going to get backloaded, and they're going to get paid. They're guaranteed whatever those numbers are. But in 2 to 3 years, I think we're going to see a fire sale in Green Bay, and they're going to go straight to the dumpster after that. This really is an all or nothing situation, even more so than what we saw with the Rams and the Bucs the year before that. They're going to be in a huge cap quandary in a couple of years, and I think that's when we're going to see the roster really turn over.
Well, and that's the thing. Like with the Buccaneers situation, when they went all in, they got Tom Brady and they brought in dudes. Antonio Brown came in, Gronk came in, everybody and their mom. Different kind of all in. This is like all in just to hope to stay the same. My question is $45 million over the cap right now. I know they're going to maneuver some money around, but you got to think that somebody's going to be on the chopping block. Who is that person going to be? Zadarius Smith? Like I've heard that they're looking to potentially trade him. His cap number is one of the highest on the team right now. If they cut him, they save $12 million, but he does have, or he would save them $15 million, and a $12 million dead cap. So, but that's one of your best pass rushers. The reason Green Bay has started to do well was because of their defense. I'm all curious. Of a sudden.
Yeah. What does Aaron Jones' contract look like?
Aaron Jones. So he's, his base salary for 2022 is the league minimum. So 1 million. His prorated bonus is 4. So right now his cap number is only 5.9. So, I mean, relatively small for the type of playmaker he is.
But they got Dylan though.
Yeah, well, they do. But if they released Aaron Jones, they actually are worse off. It would be a $7 million cap hit additional to the 5.
Does that change if he gets traded though?
Yeah, but I mean, Aaron, okay, again, we're going
I'm
along.
just doing suggestions. I don't know.
Yeah. So I think what, Johan brings up a really great point here is that they could potentially give Rodgers most of the money in the last 2 years and make them voidable years, right? Just depends on how it's structured for sure. That to me, that's the key, because if you're already over and you just barely get to under the cap, right? You just barely get under the cap.
Yeah.
You're not getting any better. That's the thing. You're not getting, and then you have your draft picks. By the way, you got to pay your draft picks that come in. That's about $7 million. So you have to at least be 7 million under. So
they'll find a way. They'll figure it out.
They'll find a way. And that's why those guys get paid the big bucks, because they can maneuver all this stuff and, shift these years around. But I think you're right, Ronnie. There's going to be a price to pay in Green Bay for, and that rhymed. I feel really proud of myself. But for all of this stuff right now, for all of this, keeping Aaron Rodgers. Now, if they don't win it, which they haven't, right? If they don't win it, what is that going to look like? I mean, Gutekunst is going to get fired if it doesn't work out, I would think.
Well,
Matt LaFleur is going to get fired if it doesn't work out.
There's one, I guess, light at the end of the tunnel in this. So we know that the cap right now is roughly about 16 million below what they was expected to be pre-pandemic. So over the next year or two, that's going to gradually increase until it gets back to where it should have been. So we're going to see a significant jump next year as well. Who knows how much that's going to be exactly, but that's obviously going to help the Packers, in the future years, and maybe that's what they're banking on. I don't know, but I really do think we're going to see a fire sale in the next couple of years. And we may be going through this next offseason where Rodgers, you know what? I'm not part of a rebuild. I want to be traded. and maybe we repeat this next year.
So where does Jordan Love play in all this? So they drafted him 12th overall. We're going on year 3, right? 3 years.
Yeah, this will
Where
be
Jordan Love. Yeah, so Jordan Love is sitting there now in after year 3. That's when Aaron Rodgers took over from Brett Favre after he did some similar type of, I'm going to retire. I'm not going to retire. I'm going to retire.
Yeah,
Nope, I'm really not. Oh, then I'm going to go play for the Jets. The weird, but when is he like? Is this kind of a knock on him? Like if Jordan Love was ready to play and he's knocking at the door, I can't imagine that they're bending over backwards for Aaron Rodgers. I just can't imagine that.
Huge indication of that, in my opinion. In fact, I saw today on Twitter, I don't remember who it was, somebody asking basically, do the Packers move Jordan Love and where's a good fit for him? And I don't personally, I don't think the Packers believe in him. I don't, even as a backup, apparently they don't sound too convinced. So as the rest of the league, is there one team out there that would be willing to trade for him? At first, my first thought was, okay, Houston, but I think they're comfortable with Mills, probably more so than they would be with Jordan Love. And we saw Jordan Love play in college. I personally was kind of shocked when they jumped up to grab him so quick and so early in the draft because I didn't see that. I didn't see him as a first rounder. Mm-hmm. And I think now the Packers are starting to realize that they kind of made a mistake with that. So they threw everything they could at Aaron Rodgers to get him to stay. And now they're stuck with Love. And you're definitely not going to get that first round pick back for him. So no. I think if they do trade him, it's going to be for, amount of dirt and goodbye. But then what are they going to do? At least with Jordan Love, he knows the system. At least you have that, right?
Yeah, and when the thing is with the Jordan Love, and you just think about, if you look at these guys like stocks for a second, forget they're human beings. The longer he doesn't play, the worse his value is. Yeah. Right. And we're 2 years into that now. 2 years into him not playing. And we've only really seen him play one preseason. So in the 2 years, we've seen him play one preseason and one start against the Kansas City Chiefs, which he had 9 points against a defense, which at that time was one of the worst in the league that was really struggling. So I think you're right. I think it's a huge indication of how they feel about Jordan Love. Now I got to be thinking they got to get him off the books or what do they do with him? At some point he's got to be with the market the way it is. If they are thinking that they're going to move on from him without him ever really playing much of a snap, this has got to be the year with all the how the quarterback market is.
This is probably the most value you're going to get in a trade for him. Yeah. But it was interesting who would do that. I mean, who's in bad enough shape at the quarter? Oh wait, maybe Seattle.
Oh man, yeah.
I mean, they might need some help now.
They might need some help, and perfect transition to Russell Wilson was traded today to the Denver Broncos. I have my champagne.
Goodbye, Mr. Wilson.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Mr. Wilson. Now, in all seriousness, Russell Wilson's a tremendous player. I have my knocks on him, one in a biased way because the guy's been a thorn in my side since 2012. Two, I kind of think that he gets a little bit more credit than he should. Like when they won the Super Bowl, let's be real, that was not just Russell Wilson. That was Legion of Boom. So
that was a huge defensive performance in that game. That was an all-time performance by the Seattle defense.
Yeah. So let's break this. Yeah, let's break this down here. So all-time performance by Seattle. But let's go to this trade, okay? Because I cannot believe this haul that Seattle's getting. It's unbelievable. First of all, you can even try this on Madden. It's not even possible on a video game.
I tried. No, it didn't work.
You can't even do it. So it's 2 first rounders, so this year's and next year's. 2 second rounders, this year's and next year's. Seattle had to throw in a 4th rounder, which is weird to me, just to get a 5th back. And then it was Noah Fant. It was, let me see, who else was it? Drew Lock, that's huge. And then there's one other defensive lineman.
I don't remember the name.
So, I mean, that's a haul. right? So Drew Lock goes to Seattle. Noah Fant had to have been excited for about 2 seconds when he saw Russell Wilson was going to Denver, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Wait a second, I'm not in Denver anymore. I'm so mad." But I feel that as you know, Matt Christie brings up several people in the comments. By the way, keep those comments coming. Do you feel that Denver overpaid for Russell Wilson?
Time will tell. I mean, Wilson, he's not a young quarterback, but he by no means is he close to retirement. Let's say he takes him and pulls a Manning, and they get a couple Super Bowls out of the deal. Maybe I would say it's worth it at that point. I mean, they have a window right now with the defense that they've got, the skill position players that they have, and all they needed was that one piece. And I mean, you ask somebody like a Detroit or a Buffalo who's never won a Super Bowl, is a Super Bowl worth giving up essentially what, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players?
Well, look at the Rams. Look at the
right.
Rams. Like, look what they did. I think that kind of helped push this forward potentially as well.
Well, and I was listening to some of the after comments of an interview with, I believe his name is Snead, the Rams GM. And basically his philosophy is this: say, look, why keep a first round pick when I don't know if that first round pick is going to hit or not? When I can go out and give me a Matthew Stafford.
We know his philosophy on picks. He wore a T-shirt in the parade that said "F them picks." Like,
well,
that's
that
what
was
he thinks
the whole
about
point.
those.
Yeah, that was exactly the reason why the question came up. So his thing is, let me use these first round picks because I know they're valuable to other teams, and let me get somebody that I know can play. Let me go get a Jalen Ramsey, who's best in the league. Let me go get a Matthew Stafford, who's one of the best quarterbacks. I already know he's that good. Now, on the flip side of that, your later picks, you got to hit on those. At least, most of them, which the Rams have actually done a pretty good job with. So if you go back to Denver and Russell Wilson can get them over that hump and get them back to the Super Bowl and win one or two before he calls it quits, yeah, I'd say it's worth it.
So here's the thing. I don't think that Denver overpaid in their mind because if you look at their division, everything's situational, right? So look who's in their division. They have Patrick Mahomes, they have Justin Herbert, and they got Derek Carr. And I feel bad about they got to have a guy. They didn't have a guy. They needed one. We've been talking about that a lot. We've been talking about it since last year almost.
Yeah.
That they have a team that's getting ready to, I mean, they have a really good defense. They have a running back. Sounds like this is going to help keep Melvin Gordon potentially there. So my biggest thing is, so Von Miller, I mean, he might be coming back to Denver, which is crazy. He gets traded and then ends up, they basically made a trade for like a half a season of Von Miller. So I don't think that Denver overpaid, but for Seattle, I think this is a big loss. I think it's a huge loss. And here's why. Yes, they clear cap. Yes, they move on from Russell Wilson. It's the end of an era. And there's another end of an era that we're going to talk about shortly that's kind of tied to this. But it's a very low probability that Seattle comes out on top on this because they got a haul for Russell Wilson. They absolutely did. But it matters what you do with those picks. What are you going to do with them? Are you going to package those picks together and go after a Deshaun Watson? Because then I think it might be worth it. You get a younger guy who had a similar skill set to Russell Wilson minus the booty rubs to be able to compete again in the NFC West because Deshaun Watson is a guy, right? But if you don't do that and you go after a quarterback in this draft, that's going to be really tough. That's going to be really tough because I'm not high on a lot of the quarterbacks in this draft. Now, can some of them pan out like we've talked about? Absolutely. But I'm not sure. So I think especially if Russell Wilson goes to Denver and he plays well, if he plays like Russell Wilson in Denver and they win some games and potentially some playoff games and Seattle is hurting for the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to look back in 3 years and say Denver won that trade hands down. Like they won that trade because this is a quarterback driven league.
Yeah. And I don't think we're really going to truly know the answer to that until a few years down the road. And I can't remember any of the specific names, but I am hearing that next year's draft class is going to be significantly better, like one of the better ones that we've seen in a while. So, or at least comparable maybe to last year's. But so I think that could be, huge. And if they can get a quarterback maybe next year, and who knows, maybe Garoppolo's not an option because it's in division. San Francisco's not doing that.
Yeah.
So maybe they go out and they sign a Trubisky or a Winston, who are pretty much the only two left on the market outside of the draft now. Bridgewater is an option, I guess. He's a free agent. But, I would think Denver would probably want to try to re-sign him to have a solid backup. I think if they do that, Bridgewater becomes one of the better backups in the league. And he knows the system, so I think it'd be a good fit for him. But if Seattle struggles next year, which they may very well, then maybe they get a high draft pick, or maybe they package up some of those deals and they move up and they get one of the top quarterbacks in next year's draft, and maybe it works out that way. But I do want to go back to kind of where the Broncos gave up too much or not. The one thing that actually surprised me in the deal that I think is more significant than people are speaking of is Fant.
Yes.
He's a big deal. And with the receiving core that they had and Russell Wilson, Fant could have been like a Kelsey type, catching all that underneath stuff, picking up the yards after the catch. They're not going to have that now. So I think that is a significant hit on that offense. We'll see how it pans out. I mean, you look at what he had in Seattle. He had a good running back. Granted, struggled to stay on the field last year. 2 really good wide receivers. And then they had the tight end formerly from the Rams. Everett, who is a free agent, so he may be bouncing. But my point is even though he had weapons there, and you've mentioned this before, the production really wasn't there. So I think Fant could have been that difference maker for Wilson, especially when he's out there scrambling around like he likes to do, making things happen with his legs, and then he can hit Fant underneath, and he doesn't have to run so much and take those hits. So I think that's a big hit that people aren't really talking about.
And I think, that's a really great point, because we're going to bring this up a little bit later when we talk about the franchise tag. Is people were franchise tagging tight ends like they were hotcakes.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot. I mean, when you really look at, there's some guys that are out there, but they're all about, in my mind, the same. You got Ertz that's out there, but in my mind, he's kind of declining in age, right? He's been good for a long time, but he's not the same Zach Ertz that he was even a couple of years ago. You got Gronk. Well, is Gronk out there? Like, is Gronk really going to play, or is he going to retire? Like, he's on the fence. There's no guarantee that dude's going to play. You think he's going to Buffalo?
No, that's what they're saying, but we'll see.
Yeah, you got Gesicki getting tagged. You got Njoku getting tagged. You have Schultz getting tagged. So that, I think that's a big piece of it, like you mentioned. But my biggest thing is I have no idea who Seattle's going to have at quarterback. Do you think Seattle looks at a quarterback this year because they're going to be high on the board, or do you think they're going to risk waiting till next year, or do you think they're going to be package them up and potentially trade for, somebody like Deshaun Watson, because he is still out there, but there's going to be competition with the Commanders, still not used to it, and the Pittsburgh Steelers potentially. They need quarterbacks.
The Commanders are coming hard. They are trying to find that quarterback. I actually saw something on Twitter today. Pretty sure it was a joke, but hey, breaking news: the Washington Commanders just reached out to Denver for a trade with Wilson. But
they did call up for Patrick Mahomes. They legitimately called and said, "Hey, are you guys interested in this?"
Hey, give them credit. They're turning over every stone, right? But they know you've got to have a guy at that position in this league, or you're not going to make it. You're just not.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Trubisky's been linked to Washington quite a bit here lately. So that sounds like it could very well happen. Garoppolo, we've heard with Pittsburgh as a potential landing spot for him. I don't know. Geno Smith right now is the heir apparent, and I don't even think they won a game with him last year.
They were close. They were close in the games, but they were close.
Yeah, but close losses don't get you in the playoffs.
They don't. And just on the bottom line here, this happened right before we went live, that the Seattle Seahawks have informed Bobby Wagner that he's going to be released by the team. So in my mind, in Seattle right now, so his cap number was actually pretty crazy. Let me go back to it. This to me says, and I don't care what Pete Carroll says. I don't care what their GM comes out and says. Actions speak louder than words. Yeah, we're not in rebuild mode. There's no this is rebuild. This has rebuild written all over it. Bobby Wagner, he has a $16.6 million cap savings for them for this year. So cutting Bobby Wagner, not trading Bobby Wagner, cutting Bobby Wagner is saving them money. That's going to put them right around that 50 million mark, being under the cap. They're going to have a lot to work with as far as free. All of a sudden, they're going to be a big player in this free agent market, I think.
Yeah, and Jamal Adams is going to start demanding a trade because he doesn't like to be on a losing team.
We suck again. That's just that meme. That's what, that Rob Schneider. That's what has got to be going through his mind. He leaves the Jets. Yeah, okay, we're in Seattle. Basically, Russell Wilson's package deal, right? If you remember the deal that Jamal Adams, they gave up a couple first rounders to go get him. So all in all, after a couple years, they get Jamal Adams, and then Russell Wilson leaves. They get those 2 first rounders back, and now they got Drew Lock.
Yeah.
Good job.
There you go. There you go. Seattle.
Good job, Seattle.
Well-run organization there.
I love it.
I don't know, man.
Great day.
Maybe they roll with Geno Smith. Maybe they that's tough. But maybe one of these quarterbacks in the draft they feel really good about. I mean,
maybe.
I mean, who knows? There's some talent at the quarterback position in the draft.
Yeah.
There's just it's a lot of potential, but there's not any one guy that's like screams, I can start right now. I know people keep saying that Pickett's the NFL ready or the most NFL ready, but when you're comparing it to the current draft, most NFL ready, that would be me or you. I mean,
hey, you want to know what? I could sling it back in the day. I don't know about now, but that's what? We do forget that Russell Wilson was a 3rd round pick.
Yeah. So
it wasn't like Russell Wilson was this highly touted guy that they hit on in the 1st round. They picked him in the 3rd round. And this is a draft where I don't know anybody in the quarterback position is a sure thing, but you're right. There is a lot of potential there. Yet, I mean, now we're starting to see, so mock drafts 2 months ago, by the way, I don't see a quarterback going in the 1st round. Now, all of a sudden, I saw a mock draft today after all this. I mean, the dust is still in the air. It hasn't even settled yet. Yeah. But I've seen mock drafts with 5 quarterbacks in the 1st round. And this isn't the same class as last year. It's kind of, but that is what the market is for the quarterback position right now. That's why Denver gave up what they gave up to go after Wilson. I want to know what was on the table for Rodgers, because I kind of think Green Bay's dumb. Somebody mentioned it in the comments a bit ago. Denver's dumb. I think it was Dawson. Denver's dumb, or Green Bay's dumb for not taking a haul like that for Rodgers. Because I got to imagine if you're giving up 2 first rounders, 2 second rounders, a 5th rounder, and 3 players, what was it for Rodgers? That's what I want to know. Who turned what down for Aaron Rodgers? Because that haul had to have been more than that. 3.
Oh yeah. And I have a feeling we probably would have heard about the trade for Wilson earlier had Rodgers made his decision earlier. Because like we've been saying that first domino. Once that went down, the Wilson thing happened. Mike Williams got signed. Adams got tagged. I mean, it was just one thing after another, and we're probably going to hear Garoppolo gets traded tomorrow. It's just it's crazy.
Today was a good day for it. That it was funny. We were talking today about the Jimmy G thing, and I was saying I think it was Fat Joe that price went up. Yesterday's price is not today's price. That whole thing, that is exactly. There is not a world right now. So 1 week ago, I was fighting people on Twitter. My thumbs were sore. Fighting people on Twitter saying they're going to get a 1st rounder for Garoppolo. Now people are saying they're at least getting a 1st rounder for Garoppolo because of what just happened with Russell Wilson. It reset. I mean, Jimmy G is not an elite quarterback. I completely understand that. He's not going to get a haul like that for Russell Wilson. But you mean to tell me that a team like the Washington Commanders, who have thrown everything but the kitchen sink at both Green Bay and Seattle to try to get one of those guys and have been left at the altar that they're not going to say, all right, we really need to get a guy now, because if we don't get Jimmy G, who's left? Who is left there? Deshaun Watson, is he even going to play? We have to get a guy. And I feel like that, Johan, you're driving me crazy, man. Third rounder, you really, buddy? It's going to be a first rounder for him.
You're talking about Garoppolo as not an elite quarterback. You look at the AFC, there's elite quarterbacks up and down that conference now. And I just wonder, for like a team like Pittsburgh or Houston, Miami, the Jets, I'll even throw Mac Jones in there because I'm not saying he's elite. And these guys, they do not have a quarterback that measures up to the other half of the conference. So do they kind of like, okay, I'm not going to throw everything at Jimmy Garoppolo and the Niners to try to get a not elite quarterback when I need an elite quarterback? So do they just roll with what they have and then see what happens next year and see if an Aaron Rodgers becomes an option next year, see what the quarterback draft class looks like? Or do they go ahead and throw 2 first rounders and 2 second rounders for Jimmy Garoppolo?
So they won't do that. There's no way. I would be happy and I would be pleased. I honestly think that it would be a first rounder. I wouldn't be shocked if it was like a conditional type of thing.
Yeah.
The thing's complicated with him because of the surgery that he had today. It's a minor surgery nonetheless on his throwing shoulder, and his cap hit. His cap hit's $25 million for this year, and whoever signs him is likely going to need to sign him to an extended deal, right?
They'd restructure, I'm sure.
Yeah, so the restructure or whatever it is, but if you're Jimmy, like you're getting your $25 million. Like you went into this year, there's no way that you're agreeing to any trade without getting your $25 million. Even if they release him, like he's due money, but so I don't know what that looks like, but I will tell you this, that coaches get fired for not winning. Coaches get fired for not winning. And I think Ron Rivera is sitting there and he knows what he has around him. They are a team that is right there as well. They're just like a Denver. They play in the weak ass NFC East, by the way. Okay. You got Dak, who just lost. Dak just lost a playoff game to Jimmy G, a broken Jimmy G. A Jimmy G that had his thumb taped up, his arm, and he still won the game. Okay. So yeah.
And he's losing Cooper probably.
Yeah, and he's going to lose Cooper and potentially DeMarcus Russell or DeMarcus Lawrence. So the answer to your question, Ronnie. Yeah. The only thing that Ezekiel Elliott has brought to Dallas is Cabo. Cabo and belly shirts. Like that's all that guy has. So I don't know. This Russell Wilson thing to me, though, is so interesting because I still want to touch on this for a second because there's still 2 things, right? The AFC West is primetime television next season.
It is loaded.
It is loaded. Every single division game is either going to be on Thursday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football. It's going to be on prime time. It's going to be must-watch TV. And I'm kind of sad that Aaron Rodgers didn't go there because I really wanted to see Pat Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers duel it out. We've been wanting to see it, and COVID's kind of robbed us a couple different times the last 2 seasons when we should have been seeing it.
Yeah.
But Russell Wilson in Denver, I will take it. That's fine. I'm happy that he's out of our division. But that AFC West, I know my buddy Matt is pissed off that all of a sudden now Russell Wilson's in his division because he's a big Raiders fan. And so Derek Carr now, I think you're going to start to see the Raiders maybe going, okay, we definitely have to keep Derek Carr now. There's no option to get rid of him, right? Like that's not on the table anymore. Like if it was yesterday, it's not today after what happened.
I think the only way anything happens with Carr outside of him staying with the team is if some crazy out of this world deal happens and they get Watson. Like let's say Watson is cleared, whatever happens with the cases, and he can play next year. And so then the Raiders go out and here you go. Here's Carr. Here's some draft picks. We'll take Watson. Boom. Now you got Watson, Mahomes, Wilson, and Herbert all in the same division. Not likely, but that'd be, fun to talk about the what ifs,
Yeah. And for Seattle, I mean, this is full blown uh rebuild. I would
Yeah.
not have been shocked after hearing him being traded that Pete Carroll was retiring. I wouldn't have been shocked at that at all. I would have been like, yep, that makes perfect sense. I wonder if Pete, it seemed like Pete Carroll was, him and Russell Wilson were married. It almost seemed like the same with Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers, right? It
Yeah,
seemed like
right.
they were going to be there together, and when they weren't, they weren't. Like neither one of them would be there. Now all of a sudden, Pete Carroll, that era has lasted longer than the Russell Wilson era in Seattle, and now he has. I mean, yes, it's a rebuild. You can call it a reload or whatever, but they have a lot of work to do. I mean, are we going to be watching the Seattle Seahawks and DK Metcalf get thrown balls by Drew Lock and him getting pissed? You know,
Well,
and they might not even have Tyler Lockett because he's on the
and here's the
block
thing.
reportedly.
Yeah, and here's the thing too. Seattle wasn't that good last year. Now they
No,
got no Wilson. They got no Wagner. Who else is going to leave the team? Who else is going to get shipped out? Like Rashad Penny's a free agent. He's probably not going to come back. He's probably going to bounce. So they could very well end up with a top 5 pick next year.
yeah. Well, I can tell you one thing for sure. The top five is this is one of the top 5 worst days in Seattle history. I can really, if you look back at the history of Seattle sports, when the Sonics left, when Ken Griffey was traded, right?
Yeah.
With I'm just thinking of all these things, and Russell Wilson being traded today is one of the worst days in Seattle history.
Don't
So
forget the Wilson pick in the end zone too in the Super Bowl. That's kind of in the top 5.
that is up there. No, that
So,
100%. That's
yeah.
like that's in there.
So I have to say this. So as a Bills fan, this is kind of good. Yes, the conference is loaded. We get that. But that division is going to beat up on each other. So
Yeah.
that puts teams like Buffalo in a prime position to get home field now. Because the Chiefs are not going to 14-3. It ain't happening. Not in that division. None of those teams
No.
are winning more than 12 games, in my opinion.
Well, if you look back, so I mean, I got my Niner hat on. I got this thing. This is what we dealt with last season in the NFC West, that we beat up on each other. However,
Yeah.
the Super Bowl champion came out of the division too. They beat the crap up on each other. I mean, it made no sense. Seattle beat the Niners twice. That didn't make any sense because they were the worst team in the division. But San Francisco beat the Rams twice, and then Arizona was in the mix. I know they split with the Rams. They beat the Niners twice, but then they lost to they beat the Seahawks. Like it was all over the place.
All over
Like
the
it
place.
made
And
no
I think that's what's going to
made
happen
no
with the West.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. One other thing here by Matt is that, do you think that DK requests a trade now that Wilson's gone? You know, he's in a contract year. This year is a contract year for DK, but I think we got to let the dust settle a little bit. I think if he requested it right now, just hours after the fact, it would be pretty bad, especially if then all of a sudden they brought in a Deshaun Watson. Like, oh, do you all of a sudden rescind that trade? You know, what does that look like? I think you got to let the dust settle a little bit. I think if you get to training camp and you look over and Drew Lock's your guy, okay, I might want out of here, buddy. Like I got nobody else here. But it also could be a big thing for him. They now have money to pay him if that's what he's about.
And it may be. But if he's considering requesting a trade, I would think it would come post draft. Like he might sit back and be like, okay, let me see what they're going to do. Let's see what happens. And maybe they've already talked to him. Maybe he's already kind of clued them in on kind of what they're thinking and the direction they want to go. And so maybe they've convinced him to like, just give us a minute. We're working. We've got something going down. But if nothing happens and it's Drew Lock and Malik Willis going after the draft, yeah, he may be like, I'm a young receiver. I don't want to be part of a rebuild in my prime. I mean, nobody does.
Yeah.
So
Nobody does. Yeah. I mean, he's a really talented receiver. He's got the dropsies. Like, I mean, he was playing with Russell Wilson and he still had some problems. Like, it's not like DK is this. In my mind, he's a really raw receiver still. He has the capability to make some unbelievable plays. He reminds me of Terrell Owens out there. just body type and the things that he's able to do.
Not
But he
necessarily
does,
talent level, but
not talent level, not yet. I think he could
not
get
yet.
there. He could get there. Now, T.O. took a while to get there too. So receiver's not a thing in the NFL where you just burst on the scene like Randy Moss. They call him a freak for a reason. That guy was a freak because that doesn't happen. Chris Carter said he's the best guy I've ever been around, ever. So when it comes to DK, I think we got to wait for the dust to settle. I think we all need to wait for the dust to settle. But there's a reason why we saw everything happen today, right? There's a reason that we saw all of this, and that is because today was the franchise tag deadline. And for what that means is you have a specific day that you have to use your franchise tag, and you're not required to, by the way. You don't have to. But we saw a couple different things that were kind of shocking. So the wide receiver market, Chris Godwin, he got tagged, right, by the Buccaneers, and it seems like they're kind of working on a long-term deal, so he might not be playing under the tag for the year. But Devontae Adams, right? So those two receivers are all of a sudden off of the free agent market. They got tagged. But then we saw a lot of tight ends get tagged as well. What stood out to you? I mean, Aaron Rodgers had to make his decision today because of Devontae Adams. Those guys are close, and I think that's why we started to see the news today is because of that he needed that decision to be, and then all of a sudden Seattle, bam. So I think we're going to still see some other stuff. But what surprised you the most as far as franchise tags? Were there any that really caught your eye that you were like, why would they use a franchise tag on him?
All the tight ends. I mean, let's be honest. The tight ends who got tagged today: Schultz, Njoku, and there was one other.
Dalton Schultz, Njoku, and then Gesicki.
Gesicki, that was the other one. None of those guys are top 5 tight ends in this league, in my opinion.
No.
So to franchise tag them as a franchise, you're saying we think you're worth a top 5 tight end on our team. And I know you kind of brought this up earlier when you and I were just kind of chatting about it. Is that's kind of an indicative of the talent or lack of that exists in the tight end position in today's game. I have heard there's a couple of tight ends in the draft making some noise with their combine numbers, so maybe there's a couple more. But tight ends typically do take a while. Very seldom do they just come in right off the bat in year one.
Right. It's usually about 3 years, it seems like, that they take. Even Kittle, he really started to take off kind of end of year 2, I believe.
Yeah. Well, you look at Dawson Knox. I mean, Bills Mafia wanted him gone after 2 years. And then this year he was like second or third in the league in touchdowns for tight ends. So it does take some while, but I have not seen any of those three really, like, on a consistent basis be able to be the guy on an offense on the field. We've seen Gesicki make some great plays, but he's not consistent. And maybe that's more of the quarterback play. That's a possibility. Njoku, he's there sometimes. Other times he just disappears.
And he's hurt. He gets hurt.
Huh?
Njoku gets hurt. His availability is a problem too. I wanted him on my fantasy team, and next thing I know, the dude's hurt. He's gone with a wrist injury. Like, his availability has been really bad. He's been very average. He's got a lot of upside athletically, but he just hasn't proven it on the field to me.
Yeah, the potential hasn't shown through. And then Dalton Schultz, he's more of just a kind of a possession guy. He's not gonna, burn anybody deep. He's not gonna stretch the field necessarily, but he's pretty consistent at kind of more of a chain mover, if you will. So, but I don't know. It seems odd to me that some of those guys were tagged. Like, if you're going to franchise tag a player, I'm thinking of the quarterback position. I'm thinking of a Devontae Adams, guys like that. Not
left tackle. Left tackle, the Chiefs used their franchise tag for Orlando Brown. That was the guy they traded for last draft, right before the draft. I think they traded a first rounder for him, didn't they? It was a late first rounder. I'm pretty sure that they traded for him. But his tag is $16.6 million. I think that's the thing for me that really surprised me the most was the Dallas Cowboys and Dalton Schultz.
Yeah.
Here, Dallas is in they're in cap trouble. Like they have a lot of let's see, let me take a look at what their cap looks like here. Oh, the Cowboys. They're just barely over the cap, okay? But they're gonna have to release Amari Cooper. It sounds like his contract that they're gonna release him or try to they're not even gonna try to trade him. Which is dumb. If you say that if you're gonna release him, you think that they try to explore a trade for him to get something in return. But hey, I'm not Jerry. I don't know. And then
Well, and
Demarcus
they could
Lawrence.
save the money by letting Zeke go.
Yeah, why wouldn't
They
they?
just, yeah, I'm sorry. As long as Jerry Jones is running that team, they're not winning the Super Bowl anytime soon.
No, I'm looking at these contracts here. So Demarcus Lawrence and Amari Cooper are 1 and 2 on that list. Oh man, they did restructure Dak Prescott, and there was one other guy. Oh, it was their guard, Martin, that they restructured to get, because they were $20 million over. So
Yeah.
they restructured just to get just barely right at the cap number. But Amari Cooper would save them $16 million, and Demarcus Lawrence would save them $8 million. Here's the thing with it would be done with Demarcus Lawrence because his dead cap would be $19 million. That seems like bad business to me, to pay $19 million for a cap hit for a guy that's not going to play, and for a premier position of somebody who has produced at the edge, right?
Yeah.
Has gotten a lot of sacks. But Amari Cooper is a really good receiver, and we're seeing those guys get tagged as well. You got your Chris Godwins that got tagged, all that stuff. But Zeke, like Ezekiel Elliott, has done nothing. Here's the reason why. I'm looking at his contract. You want to know why? Wow. They need to restructure him, buddy. So if they released him, they would actually have an $11 million cap hit. So it would be worse for them to release Zeke. That's why they haven't. He has a $30 million dead hit now, and his cap number is $18 million.
What if they traded him?
Let me take a look. If they trade, let's say trade pre June 1st. So then it changes quite a bit. He would still have a dead cap hit of $17 million. He would only save them $540,000. That's why.
That's just crazy.
That's why Zeke's going to Cabo.
Kudos to Zeke's agent, man. Holy crap.
His agent, yeah. That's why Zeke's going to Cabo. He ain't going nowhere. And that's horrible. That is horrible. That's probably one of the worst contracts in the NFL right now. He was a really good player, but we know with running backs is that they don't last for very long. And let's see, right now he's turning this year 27 years old. He seems like he's been in the league forever though. Wow. Only 27 years old. That's nuts to me.
I mean,
that's
you would think he would still be able
contract.
to produce at a high level, but he's just not. And I don't know if it's a commitment level or maybe because of his style, maybe he is just worn down.
Pollard's outplayed him. Like Matt mentioned in the comments, Pollard's outplayed him. Like he has a different gear. Like he's returning kicks.
And you can see it.
You can. It's a visible difference between those two. Oh man, that to me is crazy.
There's no better time than right now in the NFC to try to, make a run for that Super Bowl, and it feels like Dallas is going in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I mean they haven't built their team to be sustainable. Like with all these contracts, like I almost feel like it's a PR stunt to have. Oh, we have the highest paid quarterback. We got the highest paid receiver. We got the highest paid. It doesn't work out because you want to know why?
Stadium.
Most expensive stadium. There's 53 guys on the team, Jerry. You know that? Like, hell. And I don't like to sit here and bury the Cowboys, but for real, like it almost frustrates me as a fan because it is good for football for the Cowboys to be good. It is. It's good for the NFL to be good, but my goodness, like that is incredible to me. So for them to tag a tight end with a $10 million cap hit, that's surprising to me when you're restructuring your team just to fit Dalton Schultz. I
have no explanation for what Jerry Jones is doing. I mean, that's Jerry's world, right? That's what they call him. That's the world he lives in.
And I hate to say it, but like Al Davis was a tremendous pioneer in the NFL. But in his later years, it seemed like he would make some decisions that you're like, oh, why are you doing this? And
You drafted who?
it seems like Jerry's doing the same type of thing, and he has been for a while. Jerry Jones is Johan. Actually, I was talking to him outside. I was grilling up some chicken, and he goes, Jerry did a great job marketing the Cowboys and bringing them to be what they are. Jimmy Johnson made that team, in my opinion. He wanted to go get Emmitt Smith. He wanted to go get those, some of those University of Miami guys. But when you look at the NFC East, Johan saying here, Cowboys or Giants will be last in the NFC East. Now, this part, the Giants part, that is not a shocker to me. Yeah, of course they are. But the Cowboys, I wouldn't like. They have all the talent, but I can see Washington was right there towards the end of the year, and so was Philadelphia. Like they were right there, trying to make a push for the playoffs. Not saying that they were going to win the division, but Dallas has only won one playoff win in however many, Johan saying 20 years. Like,
I wouldn't be that quick to put the Giants at the bottom of that division either. I mean, I could see where any of those 4 teams can win that division, honestly. If Washington can get something settled at the quarterback position, that's going to make them up there. If the Giants can get an offensive line and Barkley can stay healthy, even with Daniel Jones or Trubisky, whoever it ends up being, one of those two, they could be serviceable. And the defense, maybe a piece or two there. It's not terrible. It's not great. But and then the Cowboys, of course. So I think any of those 4 teams, honestly, could rise to the top of that division if they can get.
And we say that every year about the NFC East.
Yeah,
like we do, every single year. Like it's who's gonna come up. To me, Philadelphia, what they did this last year. And Johan, you're listening. I am sorry, man. I did not listen to you. You told me that the Eagles were going to be good. And I said, no, they're not. They're in cap hell. They have all these things. But you want to know what? They brought in a really good receiver. Was it Devonta Smith from Alabama? And then Jalen Hurts came on. And, he's not great, but he does rack up some yards running the ball. If he can start to throw the ball a little bit better, I really think that they're going to have an opportunity to do something. Washington's right there too.
Lamar Jackson.
You think so?
Yeah. Now he's still, what, year 2 coming in, or 3? 3,
I believe.
Coming in his year 3. So maybe he makes that jump and improves as a passer. But as of right now, he's a Lamar Jackson 0.5.
Yeah, the thing about him is Tua took over in Alabama for a reason, right? Tua took over for Jalen Hurts. That was his team. And now all of a sudden his own guy, Benedict Arnold here, going after Jalen Hurts, saying that he does not have an arm. Lamar, he may have an arm, but he doesn't use it, and he doesn't throw it to the right. Yeah, he's got 2 arms. He uses it to juke this way and juke this way and miss this guy wide open. He does that too. Lamar, all the time. Best quarterback, running back. I know that you can't stand Lamar Jackson there, but I mean, what a big day in the NFL though. This is why the NFL is. I mean, you hear about the ratings consistently. You hear about. We're talking off-season football. This is March 8th, and all it did was dominate the headlines today. We got no baseball. It broke Twitter.
I literally was on – I went on there earlier today, and something popped up on my phone and be like, oh, they're talking about this. So I'd hit it, and I would have to wait a good 15 seconds for it to load. And then I even had one message popped up, sorry, your tweets are not loading right now. I'm like, oh, my goodness. It's literally broken.
Oh, man. So Matt brings up a really great point. 15 years in the NFC East and no repeat winners in the division. 15 years. By the way, awesome job looking that up, Matt. You want a job in our research department, just let us know. But that's crazy to me. And that just alludes to the parity there. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants were able to pull it together, because you want to know what? I think Daniel Jones, and he has talent. The guy can run. Okay, he's not He's not
Yeah.
just a guy that stands back there, and he's got a great arm. He just hasn't had a lot around him, I don't think, especially on the O-line to be able to keep him healthy.
Yeah.
Do you think that they trade, speaking of kind of trades and all this stuff that's been going on, what in the world do you think they're going to trade Saquon Barkley, or do you think Saquon's going to stay there? Because it seems like they're shopping him around right now.
I think he's going to stay. I think that the talk is more rumors, just the media talking than anything. No, I don't think it would be naive to say no one's tradable. I mean, you throw 2 picks, 4 picks. I mean, look at Wilson. So I think a deal could be made, sure, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think he stays there. And on the point of the Giants too, I actually heard today a source, whoever that might be, saying that Trubisky has been linked to the Giants many times, and one I can't remember if it was an owner or GM specifically said, yeah, there's a connection there. And so if he comes in, obviously he'd be competing with Daniel Jones. So I kind of said Trubisky to the Giants only because of Daboll. I mean, there's a natural connection there. He already knows Daboll's offense.
Yeah.
So I can certainly see that happening. But if that does happen, do they keep Jones? Do they have a competition in OTAs and preseason? And if Trubisky wins the job, then what? Do they ship out Jones? That's a whole nother scenario.
So the problem with the Giants that I see, just kind of peeling back the onion a little bit, is that the Giants are $7.6 million over the cap right now. You would think that a team that hasn't won in quite some time would have plenty of money to spend, but they spent a lot of money on Kenny Golladay.
That was a bad contract.
Who still has not scored a touchdown for the Giants.
Still waiting.
Still waiting for the love of all that is holy.
I tried to Barkley here. Nobody wants him.
Leonard Williams is the top contract on that squad. Oh my God. If you want to go look at a dumpster fire without smelling the garbage, go to overthecap.com, click on the New York Giants contracts. To say that it is an S show is something else. And yes, I censored myself for the kids that are awake right now. But this is unbelievable. Yeah, they're going to be a team that needs to. I mean, they tried to clean house and all that stuff, but they need to bring in some guys. They need to bring in some offensive linemen. They need to get some of these contracts out of here. Blake Martinez, they're paying him his cap number $14 million. Kenny Galladay's cap number $21 million. James Bradbury $21 million. Leonard Williams $27.3 million. What are we even doing here? Like, normally when you look at a team, it's quarterback, right? You got quarterback, you got your number one receiver, you got your pass rusher right up there. This is all over the place, man. Wow. I'm embarrassed.
There's a reason why Gettleman's not there anymore.
There's a reason. There's a reason. Oh, this is going to make you happy. I'll just let you read that out loud there, Ronnie.
Mitch couldn't hack in Chicago with no line. And Giants
He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
They have no line. So, okay. Mr. Trubisky's 28-13, I believe, as a starting quarterback with that garbage offensive line in Chicago and a garbage coach and no weapons outside of Allen Robinson. Come on now.
Triggered him. I'll tell you what. Here's the thing that right here. So I got to bring this one up. I want to bring this one up for a minute here. Oh, go ahead, Ronnie.
I was just going to say, I've been offended Trubisky's before he went to Buffalo. I just want to make sure everybody understands that. I've always liked the guy and thought he got a bad rap in Chicago. He was not the reason that team was failing. The reason they were failing is no longer with the team. He got fired this offseason.
Okay. You want to know, I do want to see him get a second opportunity for sure. But this one, okay. Dawson, why are we sleeping on Lamar Jackson? Why? Help me understand your reasoning here, buddy. So tell me when he's won a playoff game. I'll wait. When has Lamar Jackson won a playoff game?
He did get one.
Did he get one? Was it against the Chargers?
It was last season, no, or 2 seasons ago. Who was it they beat? They beat them and then lost to Buffalo the following week.
Okay.
So Lamar is like 1-3, I believe, in the playoffs this year. You look at his track record in college; it's not very good against good teams. Yeah, when the moments arise, he does not.
Well, he doesn't. I happen to remember, and it might have been that particular game, but against the Chargers, where he's going into the fourth quarter and he has 9 passing yards. 9, not
Yeah.
10. 9 passing yards. So I get you don't win an MVP and lead the league in passing touchdowns by being a scrub. No, but here's the thing. And it's the same thing that's happened to a lot of these guys that decide to run first. They've gotten away with it their entire lives, is they're letting their athletic ability get them out of trouble and not being disciplined to be able to go 1, 2, 3 on the reads. Yes, they scheme some things wide open. Yes, they have some tight ends that are amazing. Mark Andrews is an absolute stud. But when you look at it, when you force Lamar Jackson to pass, when you force him to pass,
Yeah.
and he has to stand in there, the old thing that they used to do to Mike Vick before he really disciplined himself to break down a defense was keep him in the pocket. Do not allow him to run and drop guys in coverage and let him try to beat you. The thing that he's able to do that it makes it tough is they're able to have a really good run game. And DK Dobbins or J.K. Dobbins. Yeah, he's going to be tremendous back this season. I keep an eye out for him. I know that the Ravens were injured. Like they lost a lot of guys towards the end of the year. So I'm not saying that. And I don't think that Lamar Jackson's a scrub. My thing is more of a challenge to him is I want to see you be able to have to stay in the pocket and throw the ball. I mean, people criticize Jimmy G all the time. Oh, he doesn't throw the deep ball. He doesn't do this. That guy wins. I want to see Lamar Jackson. He does win, but when he gets into the postseason and a team has a scheme at him where they're blitzing him and forcing him. I mean, Miami, if you looked at the game Miami played them, by the way, that cost me in my survivor pool. They basically played man-to-man against the receivers and blitzed him, and he did not have an answer. And I think teams are starting to see that, and if he's not able to throw himself out of that situation, it's going to be a problem. So I'm not sleeping on him. I know that he's a good player. I want to see him become a great player by throwing the football instead of trying to run it all over the place. I know he can run. I want to see him throw it and not run.
I'm with you. Okay, number one, in this league, you have to. You have to learn how to throw the football.
Right.
He's never beaten Buffalo. Just putting that out there, folks. So when he goes up against a good defense, it's like you were saying, they can scheme him and slowing him down on the ground. He can't beat him with his arm. The other thing, there was Tennessee. That was the one playoff win he has. So he beat Tannehill. Good job. Way to go, bro.
Man, you love those AFC guys. I mean, I just see it in your eyes. It just glistens when it's not Buffalo, and it's one of those teams that you got to play. It just in your eyes. Well, I'll tell you what, man. We've had a lot to talk about tonight. We've been on here an hour. I mean, from Russell Wilson getting traded to Aaron Rodgers staying, I will say we're 50% on that because I thought both of them were going to stay. We were right on Aaron Rodgers. I don't think that any of us, especially, wasn't Pete Carroll, like he was on a show and he said we're not trading Russell, like literally less than 5 days ago. So I think that
that's convinced.
He had us convinced that he wasn't going anywhere. So that happens, right? So I think the thing for me in the next 7 days until, well, really the tampering period is the 14th. So soon, right? So Monday, this stuff is going to kind of start to heat up. It's going to heat up from now. We're going to hear rumors all the way up until Monday. We're going to start hearing things are becoming kind of official. Yeah. By the way, for the group of fans that say that, well, Russell Wilson doesn't have he has a no trade clause and he has to okay the trade. He has okayed the trade and he's passed his physical, by the way. So that's as official as it gets. So we'll see what happens there, but there's going to be a ton of stuff that goes on in the next few days that is just going to it's going to reshape the landscape going into the 2022 season, I think.
Yeah, it will for sure. There's a couple of things here I want to touch on really quick. Number
Sure.
one, Dawson. Yeah. Lamar Jackson has a bounce back here if they bring him some weapons outside of Mark Andrews. They brought in Marquise Brown. They brought in Sammy Watkins. They brought in the rookie. What was his name? He
Boykin.
was injured early on.
Boykin. They brought in him. He was a big-time wide receiver in Notre Dame.
That was a couple years ago. There was a rookie last year, but they've tried to get him some weapons.
Oh, Perriman. Was it Perriman?
Something like that. They drafted him, though. He was an incoming rookie, but he's got a lot to prove. The other thing is there was another comment up here. Oh, Huntley. I totally agree with Matt. Huntley did outplay Jackson last year.
He did.
Yeah.
He did. Huntley kind of surprised me in the preseason. He was throwing the ball all over the place. There was one preseason game that he threw for like 5 touchdowns. So, they have weapons. They have a defense too, by the way. They have a defense that underperformed in my mind. Patrick Queen, I think he's got to be on the hot seat a little bit. He did not have a good rookie year. Last year he played okay. He got a little bit better, but Rashad Bateman was a wide receiver. You're right, Matt.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I really think for Baltimore, I mean they were right there. But I mean it took also a 66-yard field goal to beat the Detroit Lions early in the year, right? Like this is a team that has some high expectations in a loaded AFC that I really think that they have a lot around him already. They have a good, I mean, like what else do you need, right? This really, to me, it just falls on Lamar. Like last year, okay, fine. They got injured towards the end of the year. Okay, I get it. Nobody knows that more than this guy right here in 2020. Okay, I get it. So, yes, it's on Lamar this year. It is absolutely on Lamar. If Lamar does not get it done, like there's no, like, I don't think he's got to go. In my opinion, I don't like. Do you stay with him? Like if they do the same thing and maybe sniff the play or don't sniff the playoffs, or they go to the playoffs and they lose in the first round, like do you extend that guguy?
They're talking about an extension now. And the reports I'm hearing is they are working on an extension, but now that you mentioned that, oh man, I have to say this. Okay, so I guess there was a question to Lamar Jackson. I don't remember when this came out, but his quote was basically, "There, what do you want to be in the NFL or something?" He's like, "I want to be a billionaire and a champion." Okay, drop the first part and just focus on being a champion, because if you do that, the rest will come.
Look at Tom Brady.
When I heard that really bothered me. It's like, don't worry about that money. That will come if you become a champion first.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm 100% with you. So look at Tom Brady. Okay, the guy took pay cuts to keep his team around him. Okay, whether you like him, love him, hate him, that's fact. Like that's absolute fact. The guy was getting paid $20 million when Aaron Rodgers is getting paid $40 million, but Rodgers is winning the rings. And guess who has all those endorsement deals? Brady's making way more money off the field than I bet you he ever made on it. Because of why? Championships. Okay. Yep. That's what it comes down to. I totally understand you want to take care of your family, but at what point is 20 million not enough now? Which one of us sitting here commenting right now or talking would not take $20 million and be like, yep, my family's set. Like I can make that money work for me. Right. That's the part that bothers me. Like when Kyler Murray gets on there and makes this huge demand letter that sounds like a high school breakup from a friend, right? Like say all this stuff about how he wants to be compensated as such. It's like, well, you're just going to get the short end of the straw. I was trying to fit that short joke in there. So bad. I had to throw it in there in the worst way, but I don't understand that because this isn't baseball where the New York Yankees can basically pay whoever they want because they're the New York Yankees. There's a salary cap in the NFL and there's repercussions to paying players. You have to be able to divvy it up across 53 guys. Now, the top 51 contracts are what count in the salary cap. But what you have to remember is what happens when you have a receiver go down. Who do you have that backs him up? Depth is what helps wins you championships. NFL season, the way it's set up now, 18 games and the playoffs, and only one bye week now in the playoffs. It is a
We're
war
not at
of
18
attrition.
yet. But yeah,
Well,
we're on
18 weeks, I mean, so 17 games,
right.
and now you don't even have 2 guaranteed buys. It's 1 on each side,
Yeah,
and it's a war of attrition is what it is. And so if you don't have the depth and you don't have the guys around you, you're not going to win. So I don't understand, some of these things. Kyler Murray, I want $80 million. You want $80 million? You should have stuck with baseball, bud. You got a strike zone that's this big. Go to baseball. You can hit whatever. They'll beat trash cans and tell you when a strike's coming. I'll get off of that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, his strike zone it's pretty small. Yeah. Hey, before we take off, I have to shout out to my cousin Jax. Last Friday was his birthday, so happy birthday, buddy.
Hey, happy birthday, Jax. We appreciate you listening to the show. By the way, I've loved seeing all these comments in here. It has been I think this is my favorite show today.
Oh, yeah.
Just with the news, having everybody on here commenting, bringing up this has been super fun. We really appreciate that. Follow us on at the Peepcast, at Peebler222, at Ronnie Easom. Check us out on YouTube. That's our streaming channel now. We're going to keep doing this. We're going to get as big as we can possibly be. We love doing this stuff. We're just 2 guys talking about football, but you want to know what? We love doing this stuff. There's a passion behind us doing this. We spend a lot of time researching this stuff. Ronnie, I think my wife's starting to get jealous how much we call each other now, texting back and forth. She's getting pissed at Mario Kart the other night. I've never seen somebody get so mad about Mario Kart, man.
You guys got to try Mario Kart on 200 cc's. Telling you.
I got to check that out, man. But, man. So, Ronnie, we planning on Friday show. I think that's what we were thinking about doing. It was a Friday show. So Friday evening.
Yeah, that's the plan. And we'll do our Twitter debate of the week. So looking forward to that. Got a couple of them already that we can talk about. So looking forward to that. Also, just want to throw a quick not shout out, but just this is going to be weird and it's been strange for me, but I recently started writing for a website called ramblingfan.com. Yes, it's the Los Angeles Rams. I'm not cheating on my Bills. I'm still
cheating on the Bills.
He's
cheating on me.
But just go out there and check it out. You can find the articles, of course, on Twitter, and appreciate any support there. So
that's awesome. That stuff helps our channel for sure. Gets our name out there. But Matt, like you mentioned, can't wait for a free agent prediction stream. We're really going to talk fits on Friday. But for those of you that are out there, we do have a Twitter debate of the week. So if you run across something on Twitter that you think is going to be like a huge debate, send it our way because we want to bring it up. We want to talk about it and really kind of dive into this. But we're going to have, who knows what's going to happen in the next couple of days. We're going to talk free agents. We're going to talk rumors that we've heard about, Twitter debate of the week. We're going to kind of keep some of that space open because we know there's going to be some news that's going to happen between now and then. So, but until then, this was an awesome show. Thank you, everybody. This was fantastic. But I think until Friday, Ronnie, I think we're out, man.
Yeah. Everybody have a good night, man.
Have a good night.